I would submit to you that we should not. Let's face it, we've already got enough controversy with voting as it is. We don't need another layer added to what a lot of people already mistrust. And we need to keep it as simple as possible. One person, one vote, and ranked voting is only going to make it more complex. And people already are questioning our election process. So to add this to it on top of that, I think would be the wrong thing to do. We're suffering from a lack of confidence as it is with people in the election process already as a result of the 2020 election. So I think we're going in just the opposite direction that we should be going in. We should be trying to build up more confidence in the voting system as opposed to adding another layer of complexity to it.
Well, I would note that maybe people don't trust the system because they don't feel like their voice is being heard. And the great thing about ranked choice voting is it makes sure that in a field of candidates that may have more than two candidates, the only way an individual can win is if they secure more than 50% of the vote. So today, if you have 3 or 4 candidates in the race, it's conceivable that somebody could win with a third of the vote, 33%, or in any event, under a majority. That doesn't feel very democratic to me, small d democratic, right? So with ranked choice voting, no one can win without at least 50% of the vote. And though it's a little more complicated than regular voting, it's no more complicated than doing a runoff. So when you go into the ballot box, you instead of just ticking a name, you put numbers next to a name, 1, 2, 3, 4. That allows you to know that even if you vote, your first vote is cast for somebody who doesn't win, that the fact that your second rated person may be the winner, you got to participate. So again, if democracy is about participation and making sure that the majority expresses its will, that's exactly what ranked choice voting did. Now, my friend Buddy said that people out there mistrust and question and are suspicious of the elections. They should not be. There is this stuff out there that elections are fraudulent, that illegal immigrants are voting. None of that is true. None of that is true. And if my good friends on the Republican side of the aisle would note that the number of fraudulent voters out there, you can probably count them on 2 hands, instead of going along with the idea that there is fraud in our elections, we would all be better off. And I think it wouldn't be a lot more complicated to just ask people. The American people are smart. Instead of just ticking a box, you put 1, 2, 3, 4, rank your candidates in order. That's how we end up with a democratic outcome.
I would submit to you that just the opposite is true. I think people do have the right to choose a candidate. We have candidates who try to gain our trust, and once you decide on one candidate who's going to be the one that you vote for, you shouldn't have to choose and be forced to choose someone else. Let's face it, we've got a presidential election coming up very shortly, and if there are many people who would not vote for one of those candidates in any situation, on both sides. On the Republican side, they would never vote for this Democratic candidate that we have. On the Democratic side, they would never vote for this Republican candidate we have. But if you have ranked choice voting, then they'll be forced to do that, and they don't want that. One person, one choice. And I disagree entirely with my friend that the runoff system is more complex. I don't think it is at all. The runoff system has worked, and it's worked in this country, and it will continue to work in this country.
Well, I respectfully could not disagree more. When you have ranked choice voting, nobody's forced to do anything. If you want to mark number 1 on your ballot, number 1, and that's all you want to say, you're not forced to mark 2, 3, or 4. You can do that. You can march in and do exactly what you do today. But you have other options. You can say, I want to express my second and third choice preference. That's an option. That's something you do not have today. So the idea that you're being forced to do anything is just plain wrong. And by the way, there will be ballots, including my own state's ballots, in which, Robert F. Kennedy will appear on the ballot. Now, maybe there are people, I think there are, who are going to vote for him number 1. They would give him his number 1 choice, but they know that Robert Kennedy is not going to wind up as president of the United States. So now they have the option. They're not being forced. They have the option to say, well, I want to cast my number 1 vote for Robert Kennedy, but who I really want is Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. That's an option. That's not being forced. And Americans love choices.
And I would submit that ranked choice voting, let's look at it. Let's take one example, Alaska, where in 2022, in the primary or in the election, we had 60% of the voters voted Republican. They elected a Republican senator, they elected a Republican governor, but because neither one of them got 50%, it went into a runoff. And now in Alaska, they're actually looking at reversing that. They're actually looking at reversing and no longer having ranked voting. We've got it in 3 states right now. We've got it in Maine. We had a problem in Maine where my good friend Bruce Poliquin and my good friend Jared Golden, both of them are good friends, where they were forced to do the same thing. You know, people aren't, and to Jim's point about, oh, well, this is who I want for the first choice, but I don't want anybody for the second choice. Well, then they're disenfranchised. They don't have the opportunity to vote for who they want to vote for. That's what they need to have, is the opportunity to vote for who they want to, and not to have to have a second choice. It should be one person, one vote, one round, not second round or third round. It should be just one round.
Well, that's just plain wrong. I don't know what to tell you, right? You want 2 slices of cake or 1 slice of cake? Most Americans are going to say, I'd like 2 slices of cake. Nobody's being forced to do anything. If you want to march into the ranked choice ballot and only indicate one preference, you're totally entitled to do that. No one's forcing you to do anything, but you get a little something else, which is to express your second choice preference. So what Buddy Carter is saying, no, you don't get to express that preference. You need to vote for one person, even if you know that that person is not going to get elected. Now, by the way, Maine and Alaska, I think, sort of pull back the curtain a little bit on what's happening. Alaska is a very red state, and lo and behold, Mary Partola, as a Democrat, won that House seat. I'm sure that doesn't make my Republican friends happy, but the fact is, and this is a matter of math, this is not a matter of argument, the fact is that ranked choice voting more fully expresses the preference of the voters. And that's why Mary Partola won in Alaska, because she was running up against somebody who was so extreme that individual couldn't get enough support. So make no mistake, ranked choice voting is an option for people to make their voices heard, not just by saying, here's my number 1 choice, but here's my number 2 choice. Americans like choices, and this gives them more choice.
Again, I would submit to you that ranked choice voting is a solution looking for a problem. There's not a problem here. It is a solution looking for a problem. And by the way, already 2 states have said that they're not going to have it, Florida and Tennessee. And Missouri has it on the ballot. And as I mentioned before, Alaska's thinking about reversing that decision to have ranked choice voting. You know, we're not talking about musical chairs here. And democracy is not about musical chairs. Democracy is about a candidate earning your trust and earning your vote. And that's who you vote for. It shouldn't, the ranked choice should not have a place in our voting system. Aside from all the other things that we have to take in consideration, how much it would cost to change the system and all, people want to vote for one person, and they should have that right to vote for that one person. The current system we have works fine. It's worked fine for years and years.
Well, you know, the other thing that ranked choice voting does that I think is very good is that it empowers the center. So we have extreme voters on both sides of the aisle. And if you want to march in and vote for somebody that's extreme right or extreme left, you want to do that, you're fired up, but you know that individual's not likely to win. This is what happened in Alaska. This would give you another bite at the apple to say, okay, I really want to vote for that fire-breathing MAGA person, but I don't think they're going to win, or that fire-breathing progressive, but I don't think they're going to win. But I've got this second vote to put forward. So this isn't even a disagreement in which opinions exist. The opportunity, the option, not the requirement to cast a second vote, means that you get another option. And in all likelihood, that option will be exercised on behalf of a moderate candidate, which is why my friends in the Republican Party don't really like it, because moderation is just not something that works terribly well.